Hey guys, what's up? It's Caden from the Code Bros. Today we're going to be doing a quick lesson, just kind of tying in everything we've learned together. This is going to be part one, followed by part two of this lesson. I'm just going to break them up because they're each going to be kind of long, but we're just going to tie everything we've learned through lesson 1 through 6 all together into one kind of big project, if you will. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so what we're looking at here, what we're going to do is need a couple of includes. So we're going to include IOStream like before. That's used for cout, indel, and cin. We're also going to use this fixed command here, and fixed is going to make it so that our floating point numbers display with their decimals every time. We're also going to include IOmanip. So this is input-output manipulation. So we're going to have a set width command, set precision, and then right align and left align here. Alrighty, so we're going to need a constant integer. This is going to be for the number of employees we're making. I'm setting mine to 10. You can set it to whatever you'd like. I recommend something like 10. It's good to play around with, I suppose. And then we're going to make a quick struct, and this struct is going to be based on an employee. We're going to give them an ID number, I should say. It's an integer, so it's a number. An age, a first and last name, a gender, how much they make per hour, how many hours they work per week, and how much money they make per year. And those are going to be floats for the wage, and an integer for the hours, and a float for the yearly pay. Alrighty, so coming down to main is pretty simple. We're just going to have this display employee menu function call here. And here's our function declarations. So we have display employee menu. That's going to be for displaying the different options we can make, like that we can change our array of employees with. We're going to have initialize employees. This is just going to give all of the employees in the array some default values. And then display employees. And display employees is going to display in a neat order all the information for each of our employees. Alrighty, so here's our display employee menu. It's got a void return type, so it doesn't return anything, and it doesn't take anything as a parameter. We will declare a boolean done used for the while loop. We'll have an integer choice for our switch statement, and then we're going to make an array of employees based on that constant integer we had up at the top. In this case it's 10, so we're making 10 employees here. This is where the menu gets displayed in the loop. Just like in lesson 6, if you go and watch that one with the switch statements and menus, it's going to be a pretty basic menu. 1 is going to initialize our employees. 2 will eventually manage the employee information. That's what part 2 is for. And then 3 will display the employee's information to the screen while 4 exits the program. And you can see that broken down here in the case, or in the cases. So we have initialize employees as 1. Manage employees here is eventually going to be written for case 2. And then case 3 holds display employees. So let's go ahead and take a look at that initialize employees. All we're doing really is going through using a for loop. We have I equals 0 while I is less than the number of employees. In this case it's 10, so it's going to run through 10 times plus I, so increment I. Now what we want to do is set the ID to whatever I is so that each employee does have a different ID. That's going to be the I guess the sort of original piece of information in each of the different employees that isn't going to stay consistent, because we can't reference, say we wanted to find, first name default. Well, they're all going to have the first name of default at the start. So we want to keep the ID, the unique value inside of this array. So each ID will be different. The ages all get set to 0. The genders are male. The first and last name is default name. Hourly wage is $10 an hour. Weekly hours is $40 or 40 hours per week. And then the yearly pay, we go ahead and calculate this by doing employees hourly wage times employees weekly hours times 52. So that's how much money they make per hour, how many hours they work per week, and how many weeks there are in a year. And then for the display function, I'm just going to kind of rest this here so you can see this and take the time to type it out. But pretty much we have this little header, and this will be appearing at the top of our table. And it's going to pretty much show you this is where the IDs column is, this is where the name column is, this is where the age column is, and so on. So they're all going to display vertically. Now what the set width does here, and and I have this line also to just kind of be a spacing between each employee. Now this is where I display the employee's actual information. So set width makes it so that no matter what, it's going to display at least 2 spaces, right? And so for the ID as an example, since I only have the 10 employees, the IDs are going to be 0 through 9. That only takes 1 space, but up here, ID takes 2 spaces. So the bigger of the 2 you want to set the width to. That way it'll display right underneath it. What'll happen is in the console, instead of a 2 or ID 0 there, it'll actually make a space for me and put 0 there so that it lines up nicely. So that's the basic reason you want to use this set width. So then we set width to 10 for the employee's first name and 9 for the last name. 10 is so that it has a space between the first and last name. It doesn't need a space after last name because I manually put it in here. And then we also do left align the first and last name. Typically you want to left align like strings, characters, sentences, that kind of thing, while you right align numbers typically. So then I call right align over here right after I display the last name, and that sets it up for age. It has a width of 3, not because I expect my employees to be over 100 years old, but because age up here takes 3 characters. So you do want to set the width based on the bigger value so that it all does line up nicely. Then we have gender with a set width of 6, and then set width of 5. And down here we set precision for the hourly wage. Since it is a floating point number, we want to always display the 2 decimals, even if it's like $15 flat and it'd just be 00 for the decimals, like this. Say it was just a 15.00. We still want to display those decimals. So that's what set precision does. Fixed tells it to display in the number format where you see it like this. Without fixed, sometimes it'll do something where it's like 15, or it'll do like 1.5 times 10 to the power 1, or something like that. It's, for some reason, it'll do like an exponential notation instead of a decimal notation. And then for weekly hours, we have a set width of 5, not because I expect them to work more than 9,999 hours in a week, but because hours takes 5 characters. Again, you just want to stick with whichever one is biggest, that way it all spaces out properly. And then yearly pay, we set the width to 10, set the precision to 2 so it shows how like the cents they make per year as well, and then fixed so that it displays as a decimal point. So let's go ahead and run this real quick and take a look at how this all runs and works out. Alrighty, so the first thing I want to do real quick is actually display the employees. So what hasn't happened is none of the information has been initialized. So I'm always telling you guys, make sure you initialize your variables when you declare them at the top of your functions. Things like this, where Boolean done gets set to false, choice gets set to 0. I'll go ahead and show you what happens when you don't do that. So these are all uninitialized values. As you can see, it just looks super weird and messed up. Our integers are defaulting to 858,993,460. The floating point decimals are all defaulting to this negative 107,374,176. And then the characters are even weirder. They're just throwing out some weird looking things, right? So that's what happens when you don't initialize. So down here you can see the menu though. We're going to go ahead and hit 1 here. That just initialized our values. And now let's take a look at how clean initialized versus uninitialized values do look. So as you can see, the initialized table does look quite a bit better. And not only does it look better, but we're not working with really random, really bad values that we don't want to be working with. These things, you don't want to be touching the memory here because it's just could crash your program and things like that. It's just not good memory to mess with. But as you can see, that initialize employees did run through each of the 10 employees and set up their IDs to incrementally count through. So we got 0 through 9. All their names are default name. Their ages are 0. Their gender is male. The wages is $10 per hour as a default. Their hours are 40 a week, and we see their yearly pay. So pretty much what's going to be happening in the next video is I'm actually going to be implementing this manage employee information. And so what the managing employee information function will do is make it so that I can go and select, I want to change ID 4. I want to change their first name to Bill and their last name to Bob. I want to change them to I want them to make $22.75 an hour, and I want the yearly pay to update when I change that value. But they only work 35 hours a week. I still want the yearly pay to update when I change that as well. So we're just going to be doing those that implementation for like managing the information and being able to change it around. Now one other thing I want to mention is when we come up here to this display employee menu function, right after we declare this array, what we can do is simply call this initialize employees and pass in that array right there. And that makes it so that having a case here would be unnecessary in the first place, because as you can see when we run it now, it calls that before it even ever hits this menu. And if we display the information, it's already all defaulted. So that's something to think about when you're programming and things. If you set up some kind of data that doesn't inherently, you can't just say, oh, this equals 0, right? You can't really do that. If you set up some kind of data like that, you might think about making some kind of function right after it to initialize everything for you. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you in part 2. It's going to be a lot of fun, and just managing the information gets to be kind of a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. So hope to see you guys there. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to drop a comment. See you in the next one. Peace.